Hello, my name is John Rose. In this video, I'd like to take a closer look at the difference between the Golden Ages and the Dark Ages. Currently, we are still in the Dark Ages. We've been here a long time, especially the Dark Ages of medicine. In fact, in the hope not too distant future, we'll look back in horror and in disbelief at the Dark Ages of medicine, where we actually thought that giving people poison would somehow make them healthy. Mind-boggling. But what I want to help people understand, because I still see a lot of people struggling with this, they really don't understand what we used to have. The Golden Ages, every culture on this planet has made reference to this time period. It was a time period where man did not have this propensity for evil. And yet we've been bombarded by bullshit to make us believe that's true. So we would think there's nothing we can do about it, and that's wrong. There is something we can do with this. We have to understand why we have a dark side to our behavior. It's not part of our DNA. It's not part of our nature. Long ago, every culture recognized the fact that we did something, and that changed us. It put a new twist on evil and what we would do to one another. It's not part of our nature, my friends. Don't believe in that tripe. It's poppycock. We're told that on purpose. In the same way, we're told that everyone has good in them. That's all lies too. 1% of the population are psychopaths, and they are basically in charge of this planet. They want us to believe we're born of sin, we have this dark nature, and there's nothing we can do about it, so it's hopeless. So you have to understand what is going to happen when we correct the fall of mankind. What's going to happen when we go back to those Golden Ages? And that's what a lot of you guys are still struggling with, because I'm seeing comments, and you're basing everything on the Dark Ages. You bet, in the Dark Ages, collectivism doesn't work. In the Dark Ages, anarchy doesn't work. In the Dark Ages, there is an abundance, but there is in a Golden Age. Sure, we live on a limited planet. We can't just be handing out laptop computers to everybody. Yeah, we are limited in certain resources. Yes, that's true. But that still doesn't mean we couldn't have utopia on this planet where we live in abundance. There is a tremendous amount of abundance on this planet. And another lie we're fed, which is true in the Dark Ages, is that we have too many people, overpopulation. That's another lie that's been perpetuated upon us to think that we've got to cut back. And that's not true. Once again, there's an illusion of scarcity that they want us to believe. And we could handle a whole lot more people in a Golden Age, but not in the Dark Ages. So, as long as most of us are disconnected, we can't force collectivism on anybody. Anarchy doesn't work in a sick society, just like collectivism doesn't work in a sick society. And there's no abundance in a sick society, where every person, or at least in America, is consuming 100 times the resources as they should. Of course, we can't sustain our way of life now. My God, if the whole planet consumed resources like America did, it's not sustainable. I agree. But that's in the Dark Ages. We can get out of the Dark Ages. We're not limited by this evil tendency that we have, except that it's keeping us where we are. Our collective shadow is keeping us where we are. But we can change our collective shadow, because it's not part of our DNA. It's part of our lifestyles. We're doing something that creates that. This negative behavior is an effect. It's a symptom. No different than heart disease or cancer or diabetes or war and crime. These are all symptoms that all stem back to what happened when we lost our Golden Ages. What did we do? And isn't it interesting when you hear everybody explain what it is? It's all poppycock, because it doesn't give us a solution. I know what it is. I have a solution. I know how to get back to a Golden Age for our species. We have to correct the fall of mankind. When we do that, we have more than enough resources to meet most of our needs. Obviously, there's going to be some technology we don't have the resources for now, but you got to look at this from a half cup full, not empty perspective. We have so much potential, and this is what really gets me. I've already learned long ago not to project too far in the future about a lot of things, because once we reach the tipping point, once we get our way back to a golden age, we can't even comprehend. I mean, there'll be so many things available. Think about all the brilliant minds right now that are being wasted doing crap research for stuff that we shouldn't even do research for. Once we put all of our brilliant brains to work at making the world better, this world will be better. We'll figure out how to handle the limited resources we have. And the main thing we have to do is get into this free energy that we've had forever. It's ridiculous for us to consume fossil fuel in any source. It's ridiculous to have windmills. It's ridiculous. My God, there's more energy in a drop of water than the way we're going about it now. We have the technology to do that. And we have to implement that immediately. So there's a lot of things we have to do downstream that we need to work on. We've got to, number one, stop letting people print our money. And then all those profits won't be siphoned off. And then you guys will get an understanding of what I'm talking about when I say this is an abundant planet. My God, you can put every person on the planet in the state of Texas. Not an abundant planet. My God, have you never driven anywhere and seen all the vacant space? There's more than enough land and basic resources if we can correct the fall of mankind. That's the key right there. So it's just like looking at the world through a raw food, cooked food perspective. The same thing applies to a golden age versus the dark ages perspective. You can't understand anything in the dark ages. You got to get out of there to understand how things work. So if you're going to try to contemplate something, you got to get up on the right path and understand what the world will be like with the golden age, with an understanding that the dark side of our behavior is not part of our nature. It's not part of our DNA. That's poppycock. And we got to understand that. And until you actually change your lifestyles in every way, especially in the area of flushing out the serpent and bumping up those biophotons, you won't understand what I'm saying. And even once you do that, it's not going to be the same as long as everyone else is disconnected. That's why this is so important to understand that when we go upstream, that's an individual effort. Almost everything we got to do downstream has got to be a collective effort. And we got to change our collective shadow, which is what's keeping us where we are. We can do that. But it requires you to play your role, to be the best that you can be, and to share this message. Remember, that's one of the most important parts of this hero's journey. Which, by the way, when you look back at people who study people in the past, like Joseph Campbell, for example, there are common stories like, we used to have a golden age, but then the most common of all stories is the hero's journey, and you're on it right now. Now, keep in mind, there are more than one stage to this journey, and I tell a lot of people, stage 3 and stage 4, you may only be in the first or second stage. You might not be ready for it. Don't let that hinder your progress. Go at a pace that's good for you. And when you can do that, my friends, yes, indeed, you're in for a treat.